Good morning, everybody out there, wherever you are today on this beautiful Monday morning. Welcome back to the Masculine Minute. This is your co-host Joshua Gill alongside Ace Haggerty. What's going on, Ace?
Hey, good morning, Joshua. It is excellent to have you back, my partner in crime, my Bia, my brother in arms. How you doing this morning?
Been well, man. Really good. And it's amazing. Thank you for taking care of everything last week. Had the opportunity to be away with the Boy Scout troop and to go deep into the wilderness and to see these young men trying new things for the first time and really just enjoying life and getting disconnected from the reality of cell phones and all of that stuff and getting back to the things that really matter, right? Really back to the nature and building fires and fishing and canoeing and all of that good stuff, right? Just being out there in nature. So it was really amazing. Went to the Adirondacks up to like Lake Saranac area and just had a great adventure with the Boy Scouts. So now I'm back here ready to roll. We've got an incredible subject today to talk about, something that we all battle. And it's really important to realize that you're not broken if you have a nasty little bitch voice in your head that keeps telling you that you're not enough, or what the hell do you think you're doing, or who do you think you are, or any of those things. If you have that voice in your head, welcome to the club. You're a human. It's really that. It's that very simple.
Yeah, you are entirely normal. If you don't think you have that voice, then something might be really wrong because we all got it. That's for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, and it's amazing because I know, throughout my journey in life, I've had many times where I've had like this. You would think that we would be wired by nature, by God. We'd be wired just as positive creatures, right? We'd just be constantly thinking like, oh, we have abundance, and we'd be able to just do everything, and there'd be no chance for, for failure. Everything would be great, but that's not the reality of life, right?
Right.
The reality of life is far different. The reality of life is we're always battling the enemy, if you will, in your mind, and we like to call them sages and saboteurs, right? The saboteur is the one that's on your shoulder, that's constantly telling you they're not good enough. You're never going to get this. Remember last time you failed? What are they going to say? Like all of these constant negative um, conversations that go on inside of our minds. And I know that many times throughout my life, I would never have been friends with that voice in my head, yet it was in there living rent free for as much as it wanted to. There was no controls going on. And then I just thought that's who I was, Ace. You know what I mean? I just thought, hey, that's just what I am. I'm always going to have this negative mindset. Things are always going to just be that way. I can't change it. That's how I
Mm,
was born. It's how I was raised, blah, blah, blah. That's the environment. That's the economy. It's the politicians, like whatever. There's always some kind of a blaming victim stance on that. And when I realized that that's not true, when I realized that I have control over those different voices, and I can actually add into them or change their point of focus and make them positive, that's when everything changed. So that's why I wanted to bring this up as a conversation today, because it is so important to realize that you're not broken. You're not an island. You're not the only one in the world with this. Every human has this going on in their minds. They all have a devil on one shoulder and an angel on the other shoulder.
mm.
They do. And the question is, which one are you going to feed?
Yeah, which one are you going to listen to? I'm
Yep.
glad you brought up the angel and the devil because I remember watching cartoons when I was a kid, and you would see that, right? You would see
Yep.
the angel on one side of the character, the devil on the other side, and yeah, depending on which one they went to. But you have the ability to listen to whichever one you want to. Now, it might seem daunting. It might seem like your default is the negative one, the devil, but which one have you been feeding? Most of these times it's on a loop where it's coming in subconsciously. We're not even aware of the ones that we're feeding, whether we're positive, negative. You put on the news or anything like that, and it's a constant source of divisiveness, negativity, judgment. And it's no wonder we default to that because we find it all around us. Look at social media. You post anything and you're just going to get slammed. People get so much enjoyment from
Yep.
bringing each other down and pushing each other down. And I don't know where this became a thing, but I know it's not in every society and it's not every person, but it could be pretty overwhelming. So, my question to you, Joshua, is if we do have control over these voices, what's something that we can do to listen to the so-called angels and forget or at least minimize the devil side of us?
Yeah, so that's a great question, Ace. So the first thing you have to start considering is that they aren't you. You've got to be aware, right? The awareness is number one. To when you hear that come up, when you hear that negativity come up in your mind that says, you know what, last time you tried this, you failed, or who do you think you are? Or you're not going to get this project. You're not ready for that, or who do you think you are to be able to do this new sport or try this new thing? Right? Or to stand up and speak to somebody or start a podcast. Like, who do you think you are? Like when you hear that voice, that negative voice coming in, you stop for a moment and breathe and pause and just say, okay, that's what you think. Okay, that's nice, but that's not who I am. Right? Then you have to flip that and you have to say, okay, well, if this is the case and I have this negative voice in my head, what would knock it out? What would take it out of the mix? Right? And you say, okay, well, a positive voice would. So what would I do in order to counteract that negative? Because we know the negative isn't true. We know the
Right.
positive could be true, right? If you're having an issue, like for instance, just starting a podcast like this right away, first thing that comes up, we've been going with 28 days now.
28
And it's
days.
like, you're not going to have time for that. What do you got to say that's that important? Who's going to listen? Those are the voices that come up in the head, right? And you say, no, simple. I hope one person listening gets something from all the time we put into this. That's it. Who do I think I am? I think that God's given us all unique gifts, and it's our job to discover them and share them with as many people as we can. That's how I flipped it. Right? So it's a matter of seeing it first, understanding that that negative voice and those negative statements aren't you. They're simply a pattern that you've been shown in the world, you've learned throughout just being alive. Every time you turn on social media, it's constantly designed to show you're not good enough, that everyone else is doing better in life. They're more successful, they're skinnier, they're stronger, they're
Mm,
sexier, they're wealthier, they're everything than you, right? That's what social media does. And then people that live in that environment and subconsciously or consciously, they pick up on that stuff and they're constantly putting themselves down, thinking like, oh man, that guy owns that company and they just hit X million dollars and I'm struggling to get 100,000 in the door. And this guy here just bought this brand new Ferrari and I barely have a rattle trap to drive around in. Or this guy just bought a brand new home and it's like 10,000 square feet. And now my 3,000 square foot house looks like nothing, man. I'm behind the ball, right? It's this constant. That's what social media does. It feeds these saboteurs. Not every time, Ace. You know that. There's positive there too, but it's designed to keep you engaged, and that's what keeps people engaged. So we have to be gatekeepers, like Tony Robbins said. You got to stand at the gate of your mind and watch what comes in and out, and you've got to be conscious of how you're reacting and feeling toward these things, and realizing this negative voice in your head is not yours.
mm,
This is something that's like a weed that just kind of grows there. And until you pull that bitch out, until you say, no, no more weeds here, it's going to continue to grow and flourish. It'll flower, it'll put other weed seeds down, it'll just keep growing until you see it for what it is, that weed. Pull it out and say, no more. That's not how this is going to work. It's so important to think about that. And the number one saboteur, and there's just many saboteurs, but the number one saboteur, that negative voice, is the judge,
mm.
right? The judge. Ace, you've ever felt like you've judged people or feel like you're being judged?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. No, I pulled that up this morning, and it's so crazy because part of what the judge does is it finds fault within yourself, within others, within circumstances. It's something that causes much of our disappointment, anger, regret, guilt, shame, anxiety. It's man, it's the one, like, if you envision a judge just like making judgments on yourself, like you're not good enough. It's interesting that you say the judge. I always called him the coach.
Hmm.
The My coach was that, that coach that you had in little league that would just yell at you and yell, 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 yell. Even if you do something good. Oh, that was good. Let's move on. Come
Yeah.
on. Now that's to be expected, right? Those wins are to be expected. Let's move on. And constant pounding, 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 but not uplifting, doing it in a way that nothing is ever good enough, or I'm never good enough, or just, man, just so self-defeating. No matter what you do, it's like you can't win with somebody like
Yeah.
that. And yeah, the judge is, man, he is a horrible voice. But I love how you said earlier that is not you. That voice is not you. It's like a roommate that you, that you don't want, right? But if you watch it for what it is and don't take offense to it, because it's going to be there. It's going to do its thing
Yep.
no matter what. No matter if you win or you lose, it doesn't matter, because it's always going to be there to judge you. That's why it's called the judge. And so taking it for what it is, understanding that, hey, it's actually not there to really hurt you. Its intention is not to hurt you. That's just its job. That's just what it's supposed to do. He's trying to, in his mind, he's trying to protect you. He's trying to keep you safe and sound. But as we know, if we play it safe in life, if we stay comfortable in life, we're not going to accomplish anything great. We're going to get fat and happy, so to speak. But the thing is, you're never going to be truly happy. Happiness is found in the grind. It's found in the mud. It's found in doing the things that are going to get you to where you want to go, the man you want to be in life. There is no such thing as a shortcut. There is no such thing as the easy way. It might look like that, like you were talking about social media and things like that, but that's a fantasy. That's not
Yeah.
reality.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yesterday, I'll stop you for a second here. Yesterday, my youngest Oliver was looking online to buy something, and he says to me, "Look, Papa, there's a little device here. I'm not sure what it does. It looks like you put it on your belly and it makes your belly stronger or something like that." He said, right? And I looked at him and I'm like, "Dude, let me take a look." So it's some kind of like ab machine that's
Oh
supposed to
yeah.
pulsate to make your abs stronger or whatever, right? And I looked at him. I said, "Oliver, there's no shortcut. If you want abs, you got to work for them. And this is what they sell. They sell snake oil." Right? You buy this device for $29.95, but wait, there's more, right? And then you can get these amazing abs by doing nothing. And that's bullshit.
Yeah.
You have to work for these things. That's why you have them. Some people have an easier time of it, of course, blah, blah. But the point is that he immediately saw a way to get something quicker, right? And
Yeah.
it's the human nature. There's nothing wrong with any of us for wanting that, but we know deep down that we're going to have to work for it. And, with the judge, we often have the situation where, you do something and as soon as you get it done, you're like, that's awesome. I just finished this amazing thing. And then immediately, well, that's not good enough. Someone else did it longer. Someone else has more. And you're like,
Yeah,
you thought that doing the thing was going to give you the happiness and the joy and the fulfillment that you want. And right afterward, you find yourself judging or saying, you know what, I just ran a marathon, first time in my life, but the other guy ran it faster.
Yeah.
Right. The other guy did it in a wheelchair. The other one, they're 2 years older. They're 5 years younger. That's why they're faster. That's what starts to happen in our minds, and that's a human condition. That's not something that's you're broken. That's not what it is. We all manage that on some level, but nobody talks about it, right? It's not just about judging others. It's about judging yourself against others, and that's where social media is such a perfect machine for that, because you can see so much more than we're ever meant to see at one time. We can watch thousands of people's Insta lives, which is all the highlight reels, right? And then just compare ourselves to them and how we're not doing as well as they are. And it just brings us further and further and further down. Now, obviously, it has the ability to impact and empower people too. There's tons of power there too. But when it comes to the subconscious, you got to watch, because it's looking for those things. It's trying to save us from the saber-toothed tigers. It's trying to help us judge good situations so we don't die, so we can push on our lineage. But the problem is we don't live in those times anymore. Our 2 million year old brain is still trying to save us from saber-toothed tigers, and we don't have those threats anymore. So we have to stand here at the gate of our mind. We have to be the ones that listen or don't listen to those voices in our head. We have to acknowledge them for what they are: old-fashioned wiring. And we have to stop them before they get into us. And we've got to say, look, I see what you're trying to do here. I'm going to enjoy the fact that I just won, and I'm going to celebrate it. I'm not going to let those voices kick in. Right? And just like the cold shower challenge that we're on, you've been methodical throughout the entire thing. I have as well, until I went to Adirondacks last week, and the coldest water I can find was about 75 degrees. And I could have taken some cold showers in those showers, which are probably in the high 60s, but they were not cold showers. They're not to my standard. If I would have taken those showers, and I couldn't some of those days anyway, because I was out on the trail, but it would not have fit for what I expect myself, my standard, to be able to do within this challenge. So I said, okay, I'm going to pause that challenge. When I get back, I'll do double each day to catch up. And it's not saying that to make myself sound strong. That's not the point. The point is that my mind was like, yeah, well, nobody's going to know. That little saboteur comes up, the judge's like, well, nobody's going to know if it's 68 or 55, nobody, but I will. So that's a matter of the controlling side. That's a matter of understanding that, you have control over this. You just have to be mindful of it first.
That's right. And for me and everybody listening, I think a really simple way of doing this is, what do you do when you get up in the morning? What are some of the things you do when you get up in the morning? Well, one of the things I usually do most days is put on clothes. Most days. You can do the same thing with your mind. Putting on that mind armor, putting on those mind clothes. What kind of clothes are your mind going to wear today? Disempowering clothes or empowering clothes? So doing something as simple as just aligning your mind in the morning, aligning what type of person you want to be. You could do it with meditation. There's so many phenomenal meditations that can guide you into something like this. You could do it with journaling, asking yourself empowering questions. Who am I going to be today? Who is one person that I can show up for today and be there for? Who's somebody I can send a little message or gift of appreciation today, just to tell them, acknowledge what they mean to me? Doing those small, simple, empowering things for yourself and for other people doesn't take more than a couple minutes. But what if you started your day off every morning doing something like that? You don't have to be crazy like Joshua and I and do these insanely cold showers or workouts. There's so many great things that come from it, but we're talking about your mind today. We're not talking about your body. We're talking about your mind. So what are the things that you can do to get your mind aligned so that you're not feeding this judge, but you're feeding the sages, the good voices, the godly voices? Because anyone that believes in God, I don't care if you're Christian, Jewish, Muslim, doesn't matter. If you believe in God, there is one universal truth with God, and that's He loves us and He wants us to have a good, fulfilling, happy life. So just align yourself with that, or else you're going to default to what you've been defaulting to day in and day out, subconsciously, unconsciously for most of your life. So when you wake up in the morning, what kind of clothes are you going to be putting on? It's so powerful.
No, I love that, dude. And just like you can choose your clothes, you can choose what you're gonna say to yourself. As soon as you see that come up, as soon as you see those negative voices come in, you stop them in their tracks. You say, nope, not today. We're gonna replace that. Instead of saying, I don't have enough money, I don't have enough this, I don't have enough that, whatever it might be, just add the word yet at the end. Right? I don't have enough followers, I don't have enough this, I didn't make my business isn't big enough yet. It opens the door for possibility, and that slows that judge down. So realize that we are all God's children and that He created us all equally. Right? So when you start judging other people because they aren't doing exactly what you do, just stop yourself and say, you know what? We're all equals here. We're all equals here. And that'll help put that judge back in the cage. Remember, you're just running patterns. That's it. We're like record players. So we have to stop sometimes, pull the needle off, flip the record over, and try something new. And that's when things start to really change, when you start being aware of it. That's why awareness is number one. Now, this week, we want to focus on saboteurs. We're going to pick a bunch of them, and we're going to talk deeply into each one. We have like the controller, the stickler, hypervigilant. We have all these different saboteurs that are hardwired into our system as humans. I don't care who you are, you've got them all. Some of them rear their ugly heads more than others. So we're going to talk through each one of them throughout this week in order to get you a better idea of what's going on inside of your head that you probably or possibly don't even know what's going on. And once you start seeing these things, you can't unsee them. Once you realize they aren't you and you're just wired and broken, once you realize that's not what it is, these are simply patterns that have been running roughshod over your mind your entire life, that's when it all changes. So we're here to empower you with this knowledge that we've learned on our journey so that hopefully it helps you in your journey to live a more fulfilled, more godly, connected life to your family, to your creator, and to make sure that you can die with no regrets in your heart, that you truly know that you've done it all because you weren't held back by some bullshit in your head, which was never real from the beginning.
Man, I love it. Absolutely love it. I'm excited for this week, man. Not
Yeah,
because
me
you're
too.
back, but because what we're going to be talking about is so important. So thank you for freaking bringing that up, man. This is going to be an amazing week.
Thank you, sir. And it's good to be back. See you guys tomorrow.